Hello everybody, this is Sevvy and today we're talking about use of force. We all know what has happened in Minnesota with ICE and particularly with all the protests that are going on. So it is a valid question to ask whether or not the use of force was reasonable. We will talk specifically about Minnesota. Keep in mind, it might vary state to state, but the premise is still the same no matter what. The Minnesota law authorizes the use of reasonable force in specific circumstances, such as when effecting a lawful arrest, when executing legal process, for example, enforcing court orders, or performing other duties imposed by law. The use of force must be reasonable and is subject to several statutory limitations, which includes specific prohibitions on certain restraints, such as chokeholds, for example, and how to transport individuals. Deadly force is acceptable in order to protect the officer or another person from death or great bodily harm. Additionally, force may not be used based on the victim's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. And this is Minnesota law that we're discussing here, right? So generally, use of force is reasonable. When we're talking about deadly use of force in Minnesota, we want to make sure that we are protecting the officer or another person from death or great bodily harm. And that is really the question that is important for our particular situation, not what the victim was doing. Can the officer show he had fear that he himself was at risk of death or great bodily harm? Generally, there are several Minnesota statutes that cover law enforcement agencies' ability to establish and enforce written policies and procedures. There's also administrative regulations that cover that as well, which has a minimum selection standards for officers that they need to meet and the conduct that they need to adhere to. So when we're talking about in this situation, did the officer use reasonable force when he shot the individual? We have to look at the situation from the ICE agent's perspective because ICE is law enforcement. Law enforcement is not just limited to police officers. So I want to make sure that is abundantly clear. So let's talk about exactly what happened and let's go through this scenario. And it is important to, again, keep in mind that you're looking at this from the ICE agent's perspective, whether or not he thought he was going to, be hit, whether he was going to receive severe bodily harm or whether his life was at risk or the life of other folks were at risk too. And here we can see the vehicle is already in the middle of the street. There are videos out there showing that she was dancing to music as she was waiting because she was trying to obstruct. Again, that is irrelevant what her intent was, right? Because that's not part of the analysis. We're looking at this from the ICE agent's perspective, and that is really what is crucial here. So in here, we can see the two ICE agents got out of the vehicle, right? One is approaching in this scenario. There's another one right over here off the screen. There's already another agent over here that we can't see at this time, but we'll see him shortly. He is reaching in, he's trying to open the door. Keep in mind, but this time she has already been told to get out of the car. So let's skip to that video. This is the video before those two ICE agents showed up. And here you can see him get out. He's collecting evidence of the vehicle, the state of the vehicle, her license plates, because in Minnesota you have a license plate at the front and the car. And again, we don't really care what her intent was or what she says. Focusing here on what the ICE agent's perspective. That is why it's really crucial.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
Okay. She says, I'm not mad at you. He's recording again, her license plate, because again, in Minnesota, you're required to have one at the front and the back.
Just so you know, it'll be the same plate when you come talk to us
Okay,
later.
that's the
fine. U.S. citizen
partner of the individual egging him on, which again, when the situation was tense, I think we all are very fully aware of that. He is moving in.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
Okay, so she says, you want to come at us? Why don't you get some lunch, big boy? Again, that is irrelevant because it just shows that everything was tense at that point, right? He is going to then command her to step out.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car.
There you go. He just said, get out of the car, right? We're gonna listen to it again.
Get out of the fucking car.
You heard him. He said it twice. Then she reversed. See that? This is around the time that the two other ICE agents come in.
Get out of the car.
And then she drives off. So we will switch to the other video. And then here again, she had reversed. You can see the car was not moving. It was in park. He's walking her to him. The ICE agent is already around here because he's moving around the car. She reverses. No! Now you see the ICE agent here, right? So if we go back here, you can see the ICE agent was over here. She is being told to get out of the car. The ICE agent tries to open the door and forcibly remove her from the car, which they can do because they gave her a lawful order to get out of the car. She, of course, does not do that. She reverses. In here, this is where she stops, and you can see where the two ICE agents are. She then starts to rev her engine and go forward, right? And at that point, that's where the shots happen, which I'm not gonna play for you because they might be too graphic. But the important thing is that at that point, the car is staring at him when he takes both shots. At this point, the ICE agent that is by the side window, will try to reach in to open forcibly the door to get her removed from the vehicle. And there is the risk that he's going to be dragged as well. And the ICE agent, being hit. If we look at this one, we'll see that he is in fact hit. She moves forward and he gets hit. You can see that the car moves, right? And she actually hits him, kind of falls back. So that becomes really important when we're talking about whether or not it is reasonable. So let's break this down a little bit. So ICE generally has two different types of law enforcement personnel. First are special agents who are criminal investigators. And then two, they have deportation officers who process civil deportation cases. Special agents under ICE are covered by the GS 1811 series position with a general description as a criminal investigator. They are armed and they possess police powers to investigate and make arrests for any crime committed in their presence, as well as the enforcement of all crimes under Title VII, under IRCA, the Aliens with Nationality Code. Within their authority, they can arrest for conspiracy and obstruction. So conspiracy to obstruct and obstruction. Anything that interferes with their abilities to perform their lawful duties. That includes conducting investigations in Minnesota, capturing folks that are here illegally. All of that falls into that. We did see these individuals obstructing, right? We saw the videos of the woman in the car sitting in the middle of the road because her purpose at that time was to obstruct. But even if that wasn't enough, she was told to get out of the car. ICE agents, when you're violating the law, such as she was, they can arrest her And that includes also forcibly taking somebody out of your car, which is why I keep saying, be very careful. Do not do anything stupid. Please be very careful. This is your life that you're talking about here. They gave her a lawful order to get out of the car. The officer went ahead to the van and tried to take her out of the vehicle forcibly. Instead of doing that, immediately as she saw the two ICE agents coming in, she put the vehicle in reverse and then tried to flee, which is, again, it is a crime, it's a felony in Minnesota to run away from law enforcement. So don't do it. And that's exactly what she did. I've seen the questions of, well, she was committing no crime. Yes, she was. I've seen folks saying ICE is not law enforcement. I'm sorry, you're incorrect. Yes, they are law enforcement. You should not run away from law enforcement. You should not lie to law enforcement. You should not obstruct law enforcement. And then we get to the question on whether or not the use of force was reasonable. And that, might be decided in court. It might not be decided in court. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, right? She might sue civilly, so we might see something there as well. Her partner might sue civilly, and we might see something there too. The statute 18 USC 111, subsection A. The statute says, whoever forcibly assaults, resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, or interferes with any person designated in section 1114 of this title while engage in or on account of the performance of their official duties. Or somebody that forcibly assaults or intimidates any person who formerly served as a person designated in section 1114 on account of performance of their official duties shall, where the acts in violation of this section constitute only simple assault, be fined under to this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both, or where the acts such involve physical contact with the victim or of that assault or the intent to commit another felony, be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 8 years or both. And of course, there is an enhanced penalty when that individual uses a deadly or dangerous weapon, including a weapon intended to cause death or danger but fails to do so by reason of a defective component or inflicts bodily injury, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. Okay, in Minnesota, a vehicle is considered to be a deadly weapon. Now that we have established that, yes, the vehicle is a deadly weapon, that yes, she was violating the law, yes, she was given a lawful order to get out of the car and she didn't and she fled. But we have her committing a felony here. The action that she took, encouraged by others, was not the appropriate one to take. And the question at this point is whether or not or using the vehicle in this scenario would cause the ICE agent to believe in his eyes that his life was in danger or that he was at risk of great bodily harm or that the other ICE agent who was grabbing to the car was also in danger. That is a question that needs to be answered, and hopefully we can answer that today. In 2017, an 8th Circuit Court decided in United States v. Wallace where the defendant was charged that using her vehicle was a deadly or dangerous weapon in the parking lot of a VA hospital. The court said that for a car to qualify as a deadly weapon, the defendant must use it as a deadly weapon and not simply as a mode of transportation. So for this instance, using a car purely for flight would not trigger liability as a deadly weapon. But the jury could nevertheless recently found that by driving towards the officer and forcing him to jump on the hood to avoid being hit, Wallace, a defendant, used the car as something for other than transportation, that she had indeed used it as a deadly or dangerous weapon. It is really important to understand that the person itself does not need to be hit by the vehicle in order for it to be a deadly weapon. There is no requirement for law enforcement to wait for you to hurt them before they can take action. In this situation, we have the female in the vehicle using her car to flee, and in so doing so, because of where everybody was situated, she did in fact hit the ICE agent. And again, he didn't need to hit him in order for it to be used as a deadly weapon. The question really is, again, if her conduct by using the vehicle places the officer in fear of his life or his safety. Let's talk about Barnes v. Felix, which is a Supreme Court case from 2005. The citation is 605 U.S. 73, and hopefully you can also look it up online. So the key facts in Barnes v. Felix are as follows. A law enforcement officer, Roberto Felix Jr., stopped a Barnes defendant for suspected toll violations. Barnes attempted to drive away when Felix ordered him to exit the vehicle. As the car moved forward, Felix, the officer, jumped onto the door sill and fired 2 shots inside, fatally hitting Barnes. Barnes managed to stop the car, but died from his injuries. The entire sequence lasted 5 seconds, with 2 seconds between Felix, the officer, stepping on the door sill and firing the first shot. Barnes' mother sued the officer, claiming a violation of the Fourth Amendment right against excessive force. The district court granted summary judgment to the officer using the moment of threat rule, focusing solely on the threat at the time of the shooting. The Fifth Circuit affirmed the approach, and the Supreme Court vacated and remanded, emphasizing the analysis of the totality of the circumstances instead of a narrow focus. Let's look a little bit more deeper about what the case said. Justice Kagan wrote the decision on behalf of the Supreme Court, and the majority opinion was that the court was rejecting a refinement of the reasonable test for the Fourth Amendment. So the Fifth Circuit had developed a moment-in-time approach that it was applying to cases of deadly force, compared to a less restrictive approach often used in cases involving excessive force. So what they said is, you want to look at the entire situation, not just a moment in time. The moment-in-time analysis introduced a temporal element. What amount of time prior to the decision to use deadly force could be considered when evaluating the reasonableness of the decision. In the usual excessive force case, the inquiry into reasonableness would sometimes and most often involve a review of the totality of the circumstances. The Supreme Court said the inquiry into the reasonableness of police force requires analyzing the totality of the circumstances. Deciding whether use of force was objectively reasonable demands careful attention to the facts and circumstances related to the incident as then known to the officer. For example, the severity of the crime prompting the stop can carry weight in the analysis, so too can actions that the officer took during the stop, such as giving warnings or otherwise trying to control the encounter. And the stopped person's conduct is always relevant because it indicates the nature and the level of threat that he posed, either to officers or to others. The totality of the circumstances inquiry into a use of force has no time limit. Of course, the situation at the precise time of the shooting will often be what matters most. After all, the officer's choice in that moment that is under review. But earlier facts and circumstances may bear on how a reasonable officer would have understood and responded to later one. So Barnes v. Felix is actually not bad at all for the ICE agent because you're not looking just at a snippet of time. You're looking at the entire situation, which is what we were talking about, right? From his point of view, what had happened? We knew that tensions were high in that situation. He was trying to engage in a Terry stop. He told her to get out of the vehicle. She failed to comply. The individual's partner was making the situation more tense by screaming at him. They're trying to then force her out of the car. You see the spouse or partner, I don't know if they're married, the partner, tell her to flee. She said, "Drive, baby, drive." So she indicated her to flee. So we already know that the officer was aware that she was fleeing. She put the car in reverse, and by doing so, he was right there in front of the car. She moved the car forward, and in so doing so, hit him. So under the Felix standard, we can then see all of the situations to determine what the ICE agent believed, that he was in reasonable fear or not. And again, that is really what is important, is his view of whether or not he or others were in fear, whether or not he believed that he was going to be bodily injured or possibly perish based on this. That is really the legal argument. And hopefully this video was educational to all of you as you are trying to think and understand what is going on. The situation was, of course, tragic. Please let me know if you have any questions or you'd like me to expand on anything else. I would love to make a video for you and educate you even more, because my entire perspective is I want to give you guys the facts so you can make up your own mind. I will see you guys later. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already. Have a good day. See you later. Bye.